Admiral Tahoe stepped onto the observation deck of his ship, the Stellar Arbiter, as it approached Earth for the first time. His four eyes blinked in sequence as he took in the blue-green planet. The small moon orbiting it reminded him of his own homeworld's 3 moons. "Admiral, the human representatives are ready to receive us when we dock," said Commander Hyjin, his second-in-command. "Very good," Tahoe replied, his translator converting his natural clicks and whistles into human English. This species achieved faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago. The Council is most interested in their rapid development. The Galactic Confederation had existed for over 12,000 years. New species joined every few centuries, but humans had caught everyone's attention. They had gone from basic space travel to FTL in less than 100 years, unheard of in Confederation records. The landing went smoothly. Earth's United Space Council greeted them with formal ceremonies. Tahoe found humans strange to look at with their flat faces and small eyes, but he maintained diplomatic composure. "We welcome you to Earth, Admiral Tahoe," said Director Kim, the head of the human delegation. "We have arranged several cultural exchanges during your stay. The Confederation appreciates your hospitality," Tahoe replied with a slight bow, mimicking the human gesture his cultural team had taught him. On the 3rd day of the diplomatic mission, Director Kim took the delegation to the Global Space Museum in a city called Seoul. "This facility showcases our journey to the stars," she explained. Tahoe found the exhibits primitive but fascinating. Humans had used chemical rockets for centuries before developing ion drives. Their path to the stars seemed impossibly slow and dangerous. As the delegation moved through the museum's interactive section, Tahoe noticed a small crowd gathered around one exhibit. Above them, a large screen showed a starship weaving through an asteroid field while firing precisely aimed energy weapons at moving targets. "What combat exercise is this?" Tahoe asked Director Kim. She smiled. "That's not military training, Admiral. It's a simulator game called Stellar Conquest, very popular with our young people." Tahoe moved closer. To his surprise, the person controlling the simulated ship was a small human child, perhaps 9 or 10 years old. The boy's fingers moved with incredible speed across the control panel. On the screen, the ship performed a perfect Cartesian defense spiral, a complex evasive maneuver that Confederation cadets spent years mastering. "Impossible," whispered Commander Hyjin beside him. "That's a 4th-level tactical pattern." The child's ship spun on its axis while maintaining its forward momentum, firing with perfect timing at 5 targets simultaneously. The crowd cheered as a score appeared on the screen. The simulator announced a new record. Tahoe stepped forward. "Young one, how long have you been training on this device?" The boy looked up, eyes widening at the sight of the alien admiral. This is my 3rd time playing." "Sir, 3rd time today?" Tahoe asked. "No, 3rd time ever," the boy replied. "I usually play the home version, but this museum one has better controls." Director Kim leaned toward Tahoe. "Admiral, this is Shunho. He's something of a prodigy with these games. What level of difficulty are you playing?" Commander Hyjin asked the child. The museum staff member supervising the exhibit answered, "He's on level 9, our highest setting. No one has ever cleared it before." Tahoe's upper eyes blinked in disbelief. The maneuvers he had just witnessed would challenge his best pilots, yet this human child performed them as play. "May I try the next scenario with you?" Tahoe asked Juno. The boy nodded excitedly. The staff quickly arranged a second control panel. Tahoe had to bend his long limbs uncomfortably to reach the controls designed for humans. The simulation began. A massive asteroid field appeared with enemy ships hiding among the rocks. Tahoe initiated a standard search pattern, but noticed Juno taking a completely different approach. The boy's ship darted between asteroids in what seemed like a reckless pattern. "That approach violates standard safety protocols," Tahoe commented. Shunho shrugged. "It's faster this way. If you time the thrust bursts with the asteroid rotation, you can slip through the gaps before they close." To Tahoe's amazement, the boy was right. His unorthodox method revealed 3 enemy ships that Tahoe would have taken much longer to locate. When they engaged the simulated enemies, Shunho's firing pattern seemed chaotic, yet somehow struck with deadly accuracy. "You're using the asteroids to multiply your weapon effects," Tahoe observed. "The energy beams reflect off certain mineral surfaces." "Yeah, it gives you double hits if you aim just right," Shunho said casually. By the end of the 15-minute session, Shunho had doubled Tahoe's score. The Admiral felt both humbled and intrigued. "Director Kim, how many humans play these simulations?" he asked as they left the exhibit. "Millions worldwide. It's just entertainment." "Entertainment," Tahoe repeated quietly. "Interesting." That evening, aboard the Stellar Arbiter, Tahoe called an urgent meeting with his staff. "Commander Haijin, analyze this simulator game. I want to know how accurate its physics models are compared to real space combat." Hours later, Haijin returned with her report. "Admiral, the simulation is remarkably accurate. Their game engines calculate gravitational effects, weapon dispersion, and energy conservation with 92% alignment to actual space conditions." "And humans consider this recreation?" Tahoe asked. "Yes, sir. They've been creating these games for over a century, long before they achieved real spaceflight." Tahoe stared out at Earth through the viewport, a species that turns combat training into child's play. "They've been preparing for space warfare without realizing it." "Should we report this to the Council?" asked Haijin. Tahoe watched the lights of human cities twinkling below. "Yes, but carefully. We may have discovered something remarkable here. These humans and their games might change everything we thought we knew about species development." As the ship orbited Earth, Tahoe couldn't stop thinking about young Junho's effortless mastery of complex space maneuvers. What the Confederation had developed through centuries of formal military doctrine, humans had somehow evolved through play. The implications were both fascinating and unsettling. "Perhaps," Tahoe whispered to himself, "it is not just a game after all." Admiral Tahoe sat in the human conference room, his tall frame awkwardly fitted to a chair designed for shorter beings. Across from him, Professor Sunwoo spread out several old paper magazines and digital tablets. "You see, Admiral, what you witnessed with Juwoo at the museum wasn't unusual," the professor explained. "Humans have been creating space combat simulations since our early computer age." Tahoe picked up one of the magazines. The date on it read 1983. The cover showed primitive, blocky graphics of what appeared to be a spacecraft shooting at geometric shapes. "This predates your actual space travel by decades," Tahoe noted. "Almost a century, yes," Professor Sunwoo nodded. "Before we could reach space, we imagined what it might be like." Commander Haijin, who had been scanning the materials with her data device, looked up in surprise. "These early physics models are surprisingly accurate for a species that had never experienced space combat." The professor smiled. Game designers worked closely with physicists and mathematicians. They wanted the games to feel authentic, even if they were just guessing. Tahoe's upper eyes blinked in their cultural sign of astonishment. "What you call guessing somehow produced training programs that match our actual combat protocols." "May I see Juwoo again?" Tahoe asked suddenly. The child from the museum. Later that day, 10-year-old Juwoo sat in a testing room at the Earth Space Agency headquarters. Her parents watched nervously from behind a glass panel as Tahoe entered. "Hello, Juwoo," the Admiral said gently. "Thank you for coming." The girl looked up at the tall alien with curious eyes. "Your skin is pretty," she said simply. "It looks like the night sky." Tahoe's dark blue skin, with its faint white speckles, was indeed reminiscent of a starry night. He felt an unexpected warmth at the child's observation. "Thank you. I wanted to ask you about the space simulator games you play. How long have you been playing them?" Juwoo thought for a moment. "Since I was 4, I think. My mom bought me baby's first spaceship for my birthday. And now you play the advanced versions." She nodded excitedly. I have all the Stellar Conquest games. I'm ranked 8th globally in the junior division. Tahoe brought out a tablet and showed her a series of space maneuvers. Do you recognize these patterns? Ju studied them. That's a sunbreaker formation. You use it when approaching a star with solar flares. And that one's a phantom drift. It helps you hide in nebula clouds. Each time she named a maneuver, Tahoe and Hyjin exchanged glances. The Confederation used different terms, but the tactics were identical to their most advanced military procedures. Ju, would you show me how you learned these moves? Tahoe asked. The girl picked up a controller and loaded her favorite game. As she played, she explained her thinking. See, when enemy ships come from multiple directions, you can't just run away in a straight line. You have to use the butterfly pattern, like this. Her ship on screen began weaving in a complex but rhythmic pattern that made targeting extremely difficult. We call that the Jectal evasion, Commander Hyjin whispered to Tahoe. It took our best pilots 50 years to perfect. After Ju left with her parents, Tahoe requested access to Earth's gaming archives. The request raised eyebrows among human officials, but was granted as a gesture of goodwill. For 3 days, Tahoe and his team analyzed human space combat games dating back to their earliest computers. What they found was remarkable. Admiral, Hyjin reported in their secure ship quarters, the humans have independently developed 87% of our standard combat maneuvers through their games. Some of their techniques have no Confederation equivalent but show strategic advantages in certain scenarios. How is this possible? Tahoe wondered aloud. They've never fought a space battle. It appears to be the result of massive parallel problem solving. Hyjin explained. While our military developed tactics through formal processes and actual combat experience, humans had millions of players experimenting simultaneously in simulated environments, competing to find the most effective strategies. Tahoe paced the room. And these were created for entertainment. Yes, the games reward creativity and effectiveness. Each generation of human games built upon previous learning. The next day, Tahoe met with Professor Sunwoo again, this time bringing detailed questions about the physics engines that powered human space simulators. Your early models were primitive, Tahoe noted, but by the 2050s, your games were modeling quantum gravitational effects with remarkable accuracy. Professor Sunwoo nodded. Dr. Minjin's team at Seoul National University developed the first truly comprehensive space physics engine. They called it the Universal Dynamics Framework. And this was designed for games? Tahoe asked. Originally, yes. The gaming company funded the research. Later, when we actually developed FTL Travel, we discovered the models were nearly perfect. It saved decades of practical testing. Tahoe leaned forward. Professor, did Dr. Minjin ever explain how they achieved such accuracy? He always said it was educated guesswork based on theoretical physics, the professor replied. Though there was an old story. Yes, Tahoe prompted. Minjin once claimed, after too much soju at a conference, that the equations came to him in dreams. His colleagues thought he was joking, of course. That evening, Tahoe sent a confidential report to the Confederation Council. In it, he detailed the remarkable convergence between human gaming and actual space combat techniques. He carefully avoided speculation about the source of human insights, focusing instead on the practical implications. On the final day of his initial visit, Tahoe requested a private meeting with Ju and her parents. They met in a park, away from official settings. Ju, Tahoe said, kneeling to meet her eye level, has playing these games always been easy for you? The girl shrugged. I just see the patterns. The way ships should move feels obvious. Do you ever dream about space? Tahoe asked carefully. Juwoo's eyes widened. How did you know? I have the best dreams. I'm floating among stars, and I can feel how gravity pulls and pushes. Sometimes I wake up and add new moves to my game strategies. Tahoe looked up at Juwoo's parents, who nodded in confirmation. She's always had an intuitive understanding of physics that her teachers can't explain, her father said. We thought she might be a prodigy. Perhaps she is, Taiho said thoughtfully. Or perhaps human minds are naturally attuned to the cosmos in ways my people have forgotten. As his ship prepared to depart Earth the next day, Taiho watched the blue planet from his viewport. Somewhere down there, millions of humans were playing games that perfectly simulated the realities of space combat, a reality they had never experienced. What do you think it means, Admiral? Commander Hyjin asked. I think, Taiho said slowly, that when the Confederation eventually needs new strategies, we should look to human games. What they created for fun may one day save us all. 6 months after Admiral Taiho's first visit to Earth, the situation at the edge of Confederation space grew tense. The Dracs, a species known for their territorial aggression, had begun expanding beyond their usual boundaries. 3 Confederation outposts had already fallen. Taiho stood before the High Council on the Confederation capital world, his posture rigid with concern. The Dracs' fleet movements defy our predictive models, he explained, pointing to the holographic display. They attack in scattered formation, without clear command structures. Our standard defense protocols are failing. High Counselor Jinki frowned. Our military has contained the Dracs for centuries. How have they suddenly developed tactics we cannot counter? Unknown, Counselor, but I request permission to consult with our new allies, the humans. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Earth was the newest member of the Confederation, having joined just 2 months ago. Many still viewed humans as primitive newcomers. What could humans possibly contribute to this military crisis? Asked Counselor Yunji, her voice sharp with skepticism. I believe their unique approach to problem-solving might offer fresh perspectives, Taiho replied carefully, avoiding any mention of the gaming connection he had discovered. The council would need to see results before they would accept such an unorthodox idea. Permission was reluctantly granted. 3 days later, Taiho's ship entered Earth orbit once again. This time, his visit was part of a formal diplomatic exchange, celebrating the new alliance between Earth and the Confederation. The central event was a grand dinner hosted by Earth's United Space Council. Human and alien dignitaries mingled in a large hall decorated with symbols from various Confederation worlds. Taiho's eyes searched the crowd until he spotted Ju, now 11 years old, attending with her parents who were both prominent scientists. Taiho approached their table during the meal. It is good to see you again, Ju. The girl smiled brightly. Admiral Taiho. Did you bring Commander Hyjin too? Indeed I did. She sends her greetings. Taiho sat down beside them. Tell me, have you been playing new space games since we last met? Juwoo's expression lit up. Yes, there's a new expansion pack for Stellar Conquest called Swarm Tactics. It's really hard but super fun. Taiho's upper eyes blinked rapidly. Swarm Tactics. What is the objective? You have to defend against enemies that don't attack in normal ways, Juwoo explained, using her hands to show movement patterns. They use this weird scattered approach where each ship acts almost on its own, but somehow they're still coordinated. Taiho leaned forward, his food forgotten. And how do you defend against such attacks? Not noticing the sudden intensity in the Admiral's voice, Juwoo casually began explaining while drawing patterns with her finger on the tablecloth. The trick is not to try to predict their movements as a group. Instead, you create defense zones with overlapping fields of fire. Then you add random patrol patterns for your own ships, not completely random, but using these special number sequences. She pulled out her small gaming device and showed Taiho. On the screen, her simulated fleet moved in what appeared to be chaotic patterns, yet maintained perfect defensive coverage. See, the game designers based it on something called emergent behavior from insect swarms, Juwoo continued. Regular patterns don't work because the swarm adapts, but this counter-swarm approach confuses their targeting systems. Taiho stared at the screen, his mind racing. The attack patterns in the game were nearly identical to what the Dracs were using, And Juwoo's counter-strategy. It was entirely unlike anything in Confederation tactical doctrine. Juwoo, how long has this game expansion been available? He asked carefully. About 3 months. It's really popular. There's already international tournaments for the best defense strategies. 3 months, precisely when the Dracs had begun their new offensive. Tahoe excused himself and quickly found Commander Hyjin, who was chatting with Earth officials across the room. "Commander, we need to speak privately." Now, in a quiet corner, Tahoe explained what he had learned. The human game designers created a combat scenario that perfectly matches the Dracs' new tactics before the Dracs even deployed them. Hyjin's expression showed her disbelief. "How is that possible? Are you suggesting the humans somehow knew?" "No," Tahoe interrupted. "I believe it's another coincidence, like their physics models. Their game designers are simply exploring all possible combat scenarios, including ones the Confederation never imagined. And the counter-strategies. Juwoo says there are already effective defenses being developed by players worldwide." Tahoe's voice grew urgent. "Commander, I need you to gather all data on this game expansion and the player-developed strategies. Immediately." The next morning, Tahoe met with Earth's Defense Council. After explaining the Drac situation, he made an unusual request. "I would like to organize a tournament for your top stellar conquest players, specifically those excelling at the swarm tactics expansion." The human officials looked confused. "Admiral," said Defense Minister Minho, "are you suggesting we use a game to develop military strategy?" "Precisely," Tahoe replied. "I believe your simulators have accidentally modeled the exact threat we're facing." To his relief, the humans didn't dismiss the idea outright. Within 3 days, 50 of Earth's top players, ranging from teenagers to retired military personnel, were assembled at Space Command headquarters. Juwoo was among them, having ranked 3rd globally in the latest tournament. As the players demonstrated their strategies, Confederation tactical officers watched in amazement. The simulated battles played out on large screens showed defense patterns unlike anything in their manual. "The key insight," explained 19-year-old champion player Doyun, "is that you can't treat them as a normal fleet. Each enemy ship follows simple rules, but together they create complex behaviors. So you counter with your own form of controlled chaos." After 48 hours of demonstrations and analysis, Tahoe's team had compiled a comprehensive new defense protocol based on the human gamer's strategies. As Tahoe prepared to return to Confederation space with the new tactics, he had a final meeting with Juwoo. "You've helped us more than you can know," he told her. "What humans created as a game may save many lives." Juwoo looked thoughtful. "Is this about the Dracs? My parents mentioned them." Tahoe was startled. "How did you know?" "The game designers said they based the swarm tactics on ancient Earth insects called army ants, but the enemy ships in the game don't really move like ants." She paused. "They move like the Drac ships in the news reports." Tahoe studied the young human carefully. "Juwoo, have you ever had dreams about alien species you've never seen?" The girl nodded slowly. "Sometimes." "Is that weird?" "No," Tahoe said gently. "Perhaps it is simply another mystery of the universe we have yet to understand." As his ship broke orbit, Tahoe gazed down at Earth one last time. Somewhere in the collective human imagination, played out through their games, might lie the salvation of the entire Confederation. The question that troubled him was, how had they known? Admiral Tahoe stood before the Confederation War Council, his normally calm demeanor showing signs of stress. The blue speckles on his skin had darkened, a physiological response to tension among his species. "The Dracs have pushed through our outer defenses in the Vega sector," he reported. "Our counter-swarm tactics slowed them initially, but they've already adapted." High Commander Doyun, the most senior military leader in the Confederation, leaned forward. His elongated head with its distinctive crest of sensory spines reflected his ancient lineage from a predatory species. "Admiral, Your report indicates you've taken an unusual step without council approval, Do-Yun said, his voice carrying the harmonic resonance of authority. You've brought humans aboard the command carrier Resolute. Tahoe straightened his posture. Yes, Commander. 7 human consultants, including the young tactical prodigy Juwu. A murmur ran through the council chamber. Bringing non-military personnel into active war zones violated multiple regulations. Bringing aliens with barely a decade of space experience was unheard of. Explain yourself, Do-Yun demanded. The human gaming strategies bought us 3 weeks of successful defense, Tahoe replied. But as I predicted, the Dracs are learning. We need the humans' adaptive thinking on site, not relayed through communication channels. Council member Seojin, representing the diplomatic corps, shook her head. These are game players, not soldiers. One is a child. With respect, Tahoe countered, their status as game players is precisely what makes them valuable. The humans' approach to warfare simulation differs fundamentally from ours. He activated the central holographic display. It showed 2 different battle simulations side by side. On the left is our traditional Confederation tactical model, refined over 12,000 years. It emphasizes perfect formations, chain of command, and established responses to known threats. He gestured to the right display. This is a human game scenario from last week. Notice the chaotic seeming movements, the constant adaptation, the willingness to sacrifice pieces for positional advantage. Commander Do-Yun studied the displays with his 4 eyes narrowed. Their approach seems undisciplined. It is, Tahoe agreed, and that is its strength against the Dracs. Humans don't optimize for perfection. They optimize for surprise and adaptation. After much debate, the council agreed to a demonstration. The 7 humans would be allowed to present their tactics directly. The next day, Juwu stood before the War Council. Now 12 years old, she seemed tiny beside the towering alien leaders, but her confidence never wavered. The problem with your current strategy, she began bluntly, is that it's too perfect. Council member Minjin, the eldest present, bristled visibly. Our battle doctrine has been refined for millennia by the finest military minds in the galaxy. Exactly, Juwu nodded. And that's why the Dracs can predict it. Your ships move exactly as your training dictates they should move. The Dracs study patterns, adapt to them, then exploit them. She turned to the tactical display. May I? With permission granted, Juwu loaded a simulation she and the other human gamers had developed. The display showed the current Drax fleet positions and the Confederation defense line. In standard doctrine, you would reinforce these 3 positions, she pointed. But that's exactly what they expect. Instead, we propose this. The simulation showed Confederation ships breaking formation, creating deliberate gaps in the defense line, and positioning small strike teams in seemingly vulnerable positions. This is madness, Council member Seojin exclaimed. You're inviting them to break through our lines. Yes, smiled Juwu, but only where we want them to go. The simulation continued, showing Drax ships pouring through the gaps, only to find themselves in carefully crafted kill zones. Meanwhile, the Confederation's flanking forces struck from unexpected angles. In games, we call this baiting, explained Hojin, one of the adult gamers on the human team. A former chess champion, he had transferred his strategic thinking to space simulators. You sacrifice apparent position to gain actual advantage. High Commander Do-Yun studied the simulation results with growing interest. Your plan deliberately introduces inefficiencies and apparent mistakes. Humans excel at that, Tahoe commented. Their entire history is full of imperfect solutions that work surprisingly well. After hours of detailed analysis, the Council reached a decision. The human gamers would be officially designated as tactical consultants and would work directly with fleet commanders. Juwu, due to her age, would remain on the command carrier rather than joining frontline operations. Later, in the tactical planning room aboard the Resolute, Tahoe found himself explaining the Council's decision to a disappointed Juwu. "I understand why you must stay here," she said, "but my simulation scores are higher than any of the adults." "It's not about your abilities," Tahoe assured her. "It's about your safety." "War isn't safe for anyone," Ju replied with surprising wisdom. "But I accept the Council's decision." Over the next week, the human consultants worked closely with Confederation officers, teaching them to think differently about space combat. The initial resistance from the alien military gradually transformed into reluctant respect. "Your species approaches problems unlike any we've encountered," Commander Hyjin told Hojin as they reviewed battle plans. "You seem to intuitively grasp concepts our tacticians must laboriously learn." "It's not intuition," Hojin explained. "It's rapid iteration. Humans don't live for centuries like many Confederation species. We don't have time to perfect things slowly. Our games compress centuries of tactical evolution into decades." "And your willingness to treat war as a game?" Hyjin asked. "We don't see it as just a game," Hojin corrected her. "Games are how we explore possibilities safely. Earth's military history is bloody enough that we learn to test strategies without real casualties." Admiral Tahoe, overhearing this conversation, had a sudden insight. He sought out Ju, finding her in the ship's observatory, staring at the stars. "You once told me you dream of space," he said. "I've been wondering why humans developed such accurate space combat simulations centuries before you actually traveled to the stars." Ju turned to him. "What's your theory?" "Perhaps," Tahoe suggested, "human minds are naturally attuned to space warfare in ways mine is not. Perhaps your species' collective imagination somehow connects to realities you haven't yet experienced." Jumu considered this. "Or maybe we're just really good at imagining ways to fight each other, and those same principles work in space." The Admiral's upper eyes blinked in amusement. "A more practical explanation." "Certainly." 3 days later, the Confederation fleet engaged the Drax using the new human-inspired tactics. Reports from the front lines indicated initial confusion among Drax commanders, followed by a hasty retreat as their swarm formations broke apart under unpredictable attack patterns. In the command center, Admiral Tahoe watched the tactical display with Ju beside him. "It's working," she said quietly. "Yes," Tahoe agreed, "but this is only the beginning. The war ahead will require all the imagination your species can offer." "Good thing we've been practicing for centuries," Ju replied with a smile. Admiral Tahoe watched the battle unfold with a mixture of disbelief and amazement. The human fleet moved unlike any military formation he had ever seen before. It was wild, unpredictable, and completely unlike the rigid Confederation battle strategies that had existed for centuries. Ju, now a grown advisor, stood confidently beside Fleet Captain Minho. Her hands moved quickly across holographic displays, calling out commands that seemed random but were actually calculated with precision. The enemy fleet, expecting traditional warfare tactics, found themselves completely confused by the humans' approach. The battle looked like a complex dance. Smaller human ships darted between massive enemy vessels, using maneuvers that reminded Tahoe of video game strategies. Ships would suddenly change direction, create unexpected formations, and strike at vulnerabilities that traditional military training would never have considered. "Watch their left flank," Ju called out, her voice calm but urgent. A group of smaller ships suddenly shifted, creating a wave-like movement that broke through the enemy's defensive line. The Confederation officers around her looked shocked, but Minho simply nodded, understanding the strategy. What the enemy didn't realize was that these movements were based on years of human gaming experience. Countless hours of strategy games, team-based competitions, and virtual battle simulations had prepared humanity for this moment. What seemed like chaos was actually a highly sophisticated approach to warfare. The battle turned quickly. Enemy ships that expected predictable responses found themselves completely outmaneuvered. Ju's understanding of complex system interactions and Minho's tactical creativity created a fighting style that was both beautiful and deadly. As the final enemy ships were destroyed, A strange silence fell over the command center. Confederation officers looked at the human team with a mixture of respect and confusion. Admiral Tahoe realized that everything they knew about space combat had just changed forever. "We did it," Ju said simply, a small smile crossing her face. She wasn't celebrating dramatically, just acknowledging the successful mission. Minho looked at her and nodded. Their teamwork had been perfect, a blend of human creativity and strategic thinking that the Confederation had never seen before. What had started as games and simulations had become the key to saving an entire civilization. Admiral Tahoe walked over to them, his traditional Confederation uniform looking almost outdated compared to their more relaxed approach. "Explain your strategy," he requested. Ju began describing how gaming principles of adaptability, quick response, and unconventional thinking translated directly into effective combat strategy. Each movement had been planned. Each seemingly random shift was actually a calculated risk designed to create maximum confusion for the enemy. The victory was more than just a military success. It was a moment that would rewrite how space battles would be fought in the future. Humanity had proven that their unique approach to problem-solving could be a powerful weapon. As the fleet began to reorganize and celebrate, Tahoe reflected on the journey. From initial suspicion of human capabilities to now seeing them as crucial allies, the Confederation had undergone a massive transformation, and it all started with understanding that sometimes the most effective strategies come from unexpected places. The battle had shown that creativity, adaptability, and the ability to think differently were sometimes more important than traditional training. Humans had brought something entirely new to space warfare, an approach that was unpredictable, dynamic, and ultimately unbeatable. Jiwoo and Minho continued to discuss the battle, their conversation a mix of technical analysis and almost playful excitement. They had just changed the course of interstellar military history, and they knew it. As the massive ships began their journey home, Admiral Tahoe watched Jiwoo and realized that the future of the Confederation would look very different from its past. And that was a good thing.